Have you ever wondered why, when you began your spiritual awakening and your healing journey, things in your life seemed to get harder, maybe worse than they were before when you thought it would go the opposite way? You thought that aligning with higher vibrations and doing this shadow work and healing and becoming more aware would help you to feel more at peace in your life and would help you to break free from these patterns that have kept you and maybe your family for generations stuck for so long. Maybe you thought as you healed, you would see that mirrored to you in your physical reality as more abundance coming in and beautiful relationships coming in. Yet when you started healing, you started to feel worse. Maybe your health started to decline. Maybe you started to lose all of the relationships that were important to you and you've never felt more alone, or maybe you just can't relate to those people anymore, but you haven't yet found your new people, the people that really resonate with you. Maybe you wake up every day feeling more sad or angry or frozen than you did before, and you're wondering, why did I even start this journey? I felt better before. If you're in that space, I want you to know that there's nothing wrong and you haven't made the wrong decision. I know it feels like there's really no going back now. Once you wake up and once you see all of this, you really can't go back to how it was before, even if there's a voice in your head telling you, maybe we should. Maybe we should just go back to that way of living. Maybe we should let go of all of these practices and rituals, and maybe we should stop trying to integrate these new belief systems. That could be a voice that's going on in your head right now. Or maybe you know you're meant to keep moving forward, but you're just at a point where you feel like you're so discouraged and you're not really sure if you're even doing this work right because of how horrible you feel so frequently. I want you to know you're absolutely not alone if you feel this way. I feel this way quite frequently and have felt this way quite frequently since beginning my healing journey. And the reason why I'm able to really grasp this right now is because, like you, since you're watching this video, I know you're choosing to keep going on this journey. I know you're choosing to try to understand why things feel so hard and why things feel so heavy. And like you, I did not give up. And because of that, I feel closer to God, source, spirit, that presence of unconditional love that exists within all of us. I feel closer to that energy than ever. And now that energy is beginning to communicate with me on a daily basis. And I want you to know that and so much more lies ahead in terms of gifts that you will receive for continuing to have faith and continuing to move forward on your journey. And something that this new phase of my life, where I feel more and more connected to spirit, has allowed me to see is that throughout my journey, when things started to get harder and I started to feel discouraged, I wasn't realizing the shift that was happening, and I wasn't realizing that it does take patience. And we really get caught up sometimes because in the beginning of our healing journey, our ego is still really taking over, and our ego tells us that it's taking too long and we need to be there already. And so we feel really discouraged. But what's actually happening when you start your healing journey is you're actively telling your body and your consciousness, you're using your divine creator power to say, I am ready to start feeling again. I am ready to start feeling good, and I'm ready to start feeling whatever it is that needs to come up in order for me to start feeling more stable, more balanced, more in alignment, in order for me to be able to understand that I am source and I am connected to this unconditional love. I am ready. We usually make some type of statement like that. Show me how I can heal. Show me how I can free myself. And in that process, we decide to take that barrier away from these heavier and denser emotions that have been buried within us for years. So what happens in life is many of us go through traumatic experiences that we're not able to fully process and integrate at the time because we're young. We don't have people guiding us and telling us exactly how to move this energy through us. We often experience painful circumstances that was maybe a projection of somebody else's pain onto you as a child. And as a child, we internalize that and we make it our fault. And we develop these core beliefs about ourselves. So, for example, if someone bullies you at school, you don't realize that that person is just in pain and just kind of deflect their pain and say, that's not mine and this doesn't mean anything about me. We think, oh, I'm doing something wrong. Maybe if I just looked a certain way, or maybe if I just, was funnier or more popular or this or that, then I wouldn't have to experience this pain anymore. So we internalize these traumatic experiences. We create beliefs around them within us. And those are the beliefs that we set out to shift as we decide to move forward on our healing journey. But what we don't realize is that with those beliefs, there is an emotional charge from situations that we did not have the safety or stability or the tools to process. So as we start healing, we start to call those emotions forth, but often there's so many unprocessed experiences. I know for me, when I look back on my life, there's so much that I didn't get the chance to process. Many of us grow up in a culture that keeps us moving at this extremely fast pace. We're constantly turning our attention outward, consuming TV, movies, social media. We're keeping our energy outward and distracted, and therefore, throughout our lives, we haven't really given ourselves the adequate presence to be able to begin moving these emotions through us. So they get backlogged within us. And in order to survive that trauma and those heavy emotions that have been piling up within us for so incredibly long, we go into what's called freeze mode. In order to survive, we have to shut down our ability to really feel very deeply. And we kind of create what I just see it as like a frozen lake or pond within me. And underneath all of that is the pain and the struggle that I went through. And because that freeze mode was activated before I began my healing journey, I actually kind of felt a little bit better because I was living up in my head. I was moving at a very fast pace. I was functional, but I always still felt this density within me. I always felt like, wow, there's got to be more to life than this. I want to feel again. I want to feel connected again, but I know something's off and I just don't quite know what it is. And for many of us, we attract really painful experiences when we're in that freeze mode because it's the universe trying to show us, hey, there's trauma in here. You're attracting based off of all of these suppressed beliefs and wounds. And those experiences, they try to kind of crack us open to feeling again so that we can live the way that we were meant to live, which is fully with our hearts open, not in freeze mode, not in survival mode, but operating from a space of love where we're able to call in what we truly want into this life. So when we go through those painful experiences in our adult life that trigger those childhood wounds or trigger wounds from our past, it's actually there to try to crack us open again, to try to activate us into our healing. Sometimes it takes us getting to a really, really hard and painful place in life to surrender and say to the universe, show me how I can change this, show me the way. Sometimes we decide based off of that little inkling that there's more to life, and whatever led you to this space, I just want you to know that where you are headed is worth it. It is worth this phase where you feel a little bit worse temporarily because it is just you learning how to feel safe again. So if you feel stuck on your healing journey right now, and maybe you don't feel like you've been able to really purge and release these emotions or hold yourself, I want you to know that the number one thing to focus on is creating safety and love for yourself. We do not feel safe to feel emotions. Think about it. As a child, do you feel safe to feel emotions with somebody who is judging you or criticizing you or telling you to hurry up, that there isn't any time, or maybe gaslighting you and telling you you didn't even experience trauma or you didn't even experience pain? No, we need a loving presence to hold us and say, I hear you, I see you, and what you feel is valid. And I recognize the pain that you experienced. I'm not going to try to belittle it anymore. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. I am here and I love you and I've got you. We need that presence in order to begin to feel safe enough to thaw out. And this was what got me stuck for a really long time, because I was trying to shift my reality and heal just based on my mind and trying to use my willpower to shift into more positive belief systems. So when I was feeling sad or frozen, I would just try to affirm, I am free, I am abundant, I am happy, I am loved. And it was almost like I was gaslighting my inner child, because she was still stuck in this energy that hadn't yet moved through her. So my biggest breakthrough in my ability to feel at peace and to start to manifest more of what is in alignment for me and for the greater good of all was when I realized that trying to heal and shift my reality just using my mind alone was actually making me more disconnected from myself than ever. And that a huge part of my healing process was learning how to witness my inner child with love, hold her, and not attach to those belief systems or make a story about it or necessarily continue to perpetuate those belief systems, but bringing that loving presence to that part of me and allowing her to feel exactly how she feels, allowing myself to really be in that sensation. That is what allows those emotions to start moving through you again. When you finally start to feel safe again. It's the most important piece of this journey, because then when you start to feel safe, you can shift your mindset, and your mind can work in tandem with you in this process. Your mind should work in tandem with you in this process of understanding one of the most important beliefs. What I feel is valid, my experience is valid. And that doesn't mean that I have to believe that internalized thought, that internalized belief system that was created when I was triggered in this, but I have to believe myself and my experience. And then, and only after you've processed that and given yourself that love and safety, do we use the mind to say, well, what else could I believe about this situation? So for example, after you've adequately held yourself and processed that pain around being bullied, for example, you can then start to remind yourself of where bullying comes from. It comes from another child who's experienced extreme pain, projecting that onto you. Is that okay? No. But as we start to process our own pain and acknowledge our own experience around it and process that emotion, we can start to really understand from that higher level that it was never about us. That it wasn't about anything being wrong with us. And whether we do that through compassion for the other person and getting curious about why they did what they did, or just through reaffirming it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. It was a projection. I choose to let that belief go that there's something wrong with me now. I choose to let it go. Once the emotional charge is gone, it will be so much easier to free yourself from those beliefs and rewire your mind to believe what you want to believe. But we have to go in and hold these parts of ourselves. The other piece of this is that as you create more safety within for these energies to move through you, it is going to feel like you are reliving many of these experiences sometimes. It's going to feel like you wake up and there's just so much heaviness in you, or maybe you have bodily symptoms that are coming up. This is not medical advice, so always make sure to ask your doctor before listening to anything on YouTube. But something that I've personally been doing is when I have these bodily symptoms coming up, reframing in my mind what I start to think when I have bodily symptoms coming up. I've started to see every single bodily symptom as my body purging and healing. And I just surround it with love instead of getting into that fear programming of, oh, something is wrong because I have a stomach ache, or something is wrong because I have a headache. I allow that to move through me the same way that I allow my emotions to move through me. So surrounding it in love, deeply trusting my body's process, and not having to make something out of what is just my body's natural healing process. Because as we create safety in the body, we start to feel more deeply and we start to recognize what's going on in our body a little bit more. And it can feel really painful or uncomfortable at first because we're so used to being frozen and disconnected. And we think that we felt better in that phase, but really we just weren't feeling at all. And when it comes to relationships, often we were in relationships that we attracted when we were at a certain vibration. And as we have started to heal, we go into this almost like limbo phase where you don't really want to attract anyone new in your life, because the most important relationship in your life is your relationship with yourself. We think that we need connection outside of ourselves in order to feel whole. And what happens is we start looking for relationships outside of us to fill these wounds and voids within us and make us feel loved. But what those relationships end up mirroring to us are our lack of self-love or our lack of boundaries, or they make us feel heavy, or they lead us into negative spirals in some way, or they simply are not adding value to our lives anymore. And so as we go through this healing process, we go through this phase where many of those relationships no longer feel life-giving, or maybe they kind of explode, or we have tower moments in our relationships where we go through breakups and we lose friends and we think, oh my God, I'm more alone than ever. Is there something wrong with me? But really, you're at a crucial stage in development where you realize many of the relationships that you've had have not been for your best and highest good because you've been disconnected from yourself. So maybe you've been relying on other people to kind of keep you distracted from that lack of connection that you feel. And so in this phase where you maybe feel more alone than ever, or you don't feel called to hang out with the same people, you are in this phase because you are meant to work on the most important relationship you will ever have, which is your relationship with you. As you start to feel connected to yourself again, you will realize that you're able to attract divine partnerships and relationships with people who are not there to fill anything missing in you. So therefore, there is no codependency and there are no attachment issues in those relationships. It's simply that these people are attracted to you and you're attracted to them because you all add value to each other's lives. You all want to grow together, and even if you trigger each other, you're both so committed to doing the internal work on yourself that you'll use those triggers to grow. And that's where we're headed in terms of divine partnerships. As we enter into the new earth and these high vibrational energies, we will start attracting divine partnerships into our lives, and it will be unlike any relationships you've ever had before. They will be so healing, but not in the sense that you need them in order to feel whole. It will just feel so beautiful, so healing. And the same goes for pretty much everything in your life. As you feel whole and connected to yourself, you realize that you are source, you are God. And it's not just a conceptual knowing, but it starts to really become embodied. And that's when you really shift into your divine creator power and potential to attract truly what you want, because you're no longer manifesting from these places of emptiness, from these wounds within you. So I want you to know that I am right here on this journey with you. I wake up many days where I feel like I'm still in the trenches with my shadow self, and it's so easy to feel lost and like you're doing something wrong when you're in that space. But I want you to know all you need to do as you're in this time of purging and releasing is have so much patience with yourself. Really ask to be supported. Ask your angels, your guides, God, source, the universe. Ask for support in activating faith within you, in activating deep trust and letting go of your fears. And if in that letting go you don't feel so great, I invite you to hold yourself deeper than you ever have before and continue to trust this process. Because on the other side of this process, like I said, you will really understand what it means to feel whole, to feel deeply connected to yourself. And that is when you become most magnetic, because you're no longer attached to manifesting things from wounded spaces within you. You enter into receiving mode. You become so powerful. And not only that, but when that frozen lake has thawed out and you are so connected to your emotions again, you will understand why you began this journey in the first place. And you will also gain access to your psychic abilities again. We all have them. Being psychic is really just being able to listen to yourself and trust yourself again. And as we validate all of our experiences where maybe we were gaslit or we didn't trust ourselves or we went against our intuition in the past, as we process and free ourselves from that, we gain deeper self-trust and we're able to really access these amazing powers that we all have within us that help our lives to be so much more beautiful, so much more in alignment, that lead us to make decisions from a deep knowing within us. And life starts to just feel really, really crazy and magical in the best way when we get on that frequency and when we are so tapped in. So I encourage you to please keep going. The world needs you right now. And just know that the reason this has been so challenging is because you are a leader. And so you are one of the first shifting into this level of consciousness, doing this work, and you're actively helping all of humanity to shift because we're all one, we're all connected. So as we do this work internally and as we walk in the dark, not knowing where we're going, but choosing to have faith anyways, we start to activate this within other human beings, and it becomes easier and easier and easier as we start to shift our consciousness collectively. So just know that the work that you're doing here on earth at this time is so important. Your soul signed up for this, even if you don't remember doing that. You knew that you were strong enough. So call that strength forth. And when you are going through it, just hold yourself deeply and know that you don't have to listen to fear anymore. And that things weren't better before than they're actually going to be in your future. Keep holding that faith. I'm right here with you and I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here with me on my channel at this time. If this video resonated with you, if this podcast resonated with you, I would absolutely love to know in the comments. And if you're looking for deeper support on your healing journey, I have a whole online shop of guided meditations and pre-recorded hypnotherapy sessions available that are really aligned with everything that I'm talking about with the inner child healing, with holding yourself. So if you feel called to check those out, the link is in the description box below. And I'm sending you so much love. I will see you in the next video. Bye.